Hi, this is Grover from Blue Collar Codes, The Quick and Dirty, Episode 7. We're going to go over reading files. If you'd like to join along, please visit the GitHub repository, which I've linked in the video summary, and make sure to download all of the Episode 7 files so that the function here runs properly. So starting off, the basic way to open a file is by using a variable name and then assigning the variable name to the open built-in function, which has syntax for the arguments as a string, which is the name of the file and can include a path if it's not a local file, and then you have a string here that designates the mode in which you're opening that file. So the different modes are that I've just basic ones here I've included are read, write, append, and then reading and writing. The one thing I'd like to mention is that if you're going to be using the write mode, it will create your file, either locally if you're not putting a path, or if it already exists, it's going to overwrite the contents of that file, so you have to be aware of that. So if you're going to use just the open built-in function without context manager, which I'm going to go over shortly, then just remember to close it. I don't know all the subtle nuances behind as to why you want to make sure to close it, but I believe it has to do with the fact that if you don't close it, it's going to be a drain on memory, or could be, and then it might be how the actual information gets buffered and written to that file. So if you have multiple operations going on and multiple files open and buffering at the same time, I'm not exactly sure how that's going to result or end up, and if it's organized or may mess up. So what may be better is using what is called a context manager, which organizes those operations for you. It'll automatically close and automatically buffer the information to file. So with open, and then the same context here, same syntax as just the file name, but if it's not in the local file, which means where the actual program is running from, so for instance, it's going to have to be in the exact same directory where this episode 7.py is located, because I'm running it from this file, and so it's only going to search in that same directory. You may run into problems down the line, but if it can't find this, it's most likely because your code is running in a location that is not where your file is. So you're going to just have to put a relative or an absolute path in. So a few of the methods that you can use are reading. So this just reads the entirety of the file into a string, and it will have new line characters included. You can do read line, which will just return one line of the code. And then you can have read lines, which will give you a new line character separated list of strings to parse through. Seek is something where you can use to seek or move the cursor to a certain character count. So if you wanted to move to a certain paragraph before you pull in the contents of the file, or read it, or write to it, you would first have to seek to it. Truncate is something that will shorten the contents of your file down to a certain character count, which may be useful for logs that you want to only have a maximum character count of 1,000 characters or whatnot to limit their size. Or if you want to delete the contents of a file entirety, you just put a 0. So those were all examples of reading and writing modes for opening files, and now we're going to go through a few of the writing modes. So you have writing, and remember, it will delete the entirety of the contents of this file if it pre-exists, and it'll just write hello world. So the only thing in there will be hello world, and then the exclamation point. If you're going to write lines, it basically will parse through a list and write lines to it. And going over JSON, so JSON is just a popular way of formatting text for storing and accessing that data. It is often what you will find sent to you if you're working with databases of information online. It's just a convenient way to store information in text format. And so that also you may find convenient for using with applications you're building if you want to have something that persists locally. And so that's why I include it here, especially because it's simple in that you can use a Python dictionary to store information, and then you can dump that to file, and it'll be semi-permanent. And then you can load those contents right back into a program from that file for use immediately, just using JSON load. And so here I'm going to save it and then go over this function. Basically just run the little mini function I put together for you just to show you an example of what read does and what these different things do to the file or the contents of the file. So here it's the entire little script I put in there, and then read line only takes the first line. As you can see, read lines returns a list with the new line characters included. Seek, since I had a seek to 10, it went all the way to the 10th place where the cursor is, where it put the cursor. Now it read from there. And then truncate, I just truncated it using a 10 as well, so it just took all the contents away except for the first 10 characters. And then you have it overwriting everything and writing to a file. And then I had a list that it wrote to file, making each line or each comma separated value it made on its own line. And then just showing you what JSON dumps, it put the JSON object on file. So this is from the file itself, and then it loaded that file back into Python, and I wanted to show you that its type is dictionary, so you can be used directly. So I would encourage you to go over some of the practice that I have laid out for episode 7 just to get more familiar with it, and then join me next time to go over a bit more in depth into functions and arguments. Again, Grover from Blue Collar Codes, thanks for joining.